Hi gardeners! November is here, and with it comes a whole set of tasks to prepare your garden for the cooler months ahead. Now that cool season is in full swing, it's the perfect time to plant and tend to your garden for a successful winter harvest. Today I'm sharing my top 10 garden tasks and tips to complete in November to keep your garden thriving and on track as the season progresses. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara. I've been gardening all of my life and I'm a professional seed and plant nursery. I love to share my knowledge and teach others how to garden and grow food, so you've come to the right place if you want to improve your gardening skills. And if you have not watched it already, go check out my huge garden guide for the month of November. That video went live last week and lists 30 veggie ideas that can be planted right now. So lots of planting and garden inspiration for you all. All right, let's dive into these essential garden tasks and reminders that need to be taken care of during the month of November. My first task is the most obvious, but also the most important, and that's to prepare the garden for cold. If you're a cold climate gardener, start by assessing which plants will not survive your winter if they are not covered or protected. Install hoops or frames to attach frost protection covers or fabric. Set up or repair greenhouses. I know some gardeners that have whole stoves and heaters to keep their greenhouses warm during the winter, so start stocking up on gas or wood to make sure you have enough to last all winter long. If you're a warm winter gardener, meaning no snow, start by assessing which plants might get damaged by the lowest temperature you experience in your area. You can find this by locating your garden zone, because that will tell you the lowest temperature your garden receives every winter on average. Using my garden as an example, I can get as low as 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't have to worry about covering the majority of what I grow, except for these super tropical stuff like Rolinias and soursops, or my Kerry dwarf mango tree that just decides to bloom during the coldest months of the year. If the blooms get cold damage, then I get no mangoes that year. I like to cover trees with zip-up frost protection bags and hang a heat mat inside during cold nights only. For any veggie or row crops that might get damaged, I just install some hoops that I get from Amazon and clip on some frost protection fabric, or even just old sheets. I'll link in the description to the supplies that I use. On to my second task, heavily mulch or wood chip the garden. This is important for protecting perennial plants and fruit tree root systems from cold damage, especially if your ground freezes. I only recommend that you use mulch that has not been dyed with any colors, as that will leach chemicals into the soil. Personally, I don't use mulch because I get huge amounts of free wood chips delivered to my house by using a website called getchipdrop.com. I have a whole YouTube video about how I get wood chips for free and use it around my garden, which I will also link that below in the description. Speaking of freezing ground, my third task is, if you garden in an area where it gets so cold the ground freezes, you need to hurry up and harvest any root crops like carrots and potatoes. Store them in a cool, dry, dark place so they last for many months. I really like to use these stackable wire baskets that I get from Amazon to store my root crops and even other veggies like squash and onions, because they have excellent air circulation, which keeps everything dry to prevent mold or rotting. My fourth task is to not throw away fallen leaves that you rake up. This makes for such a good nitrogen source when composting, or just use it as a mulch. And I'll tell you guys a little secret, I don't have any trees on my property except for my fruit trees, which means I don't have a source of leaves, so sometimes I just drive around my neighborhood and take bags of raked up leaves if I see them. Then I just dump them under my fruit trees to again protect the root ball when cold comes. Leaves are also a winter home for lots of beneficial insects like ladybugs. They hibernate, so to speak, in the leaves and other debris and then wake up in spring. You have to create an environment for the good bugs if you want them to take up residence in your garden. Moving along, my fifth task is, if you're letting your garden go to rest during the winter, don't just leave the soil bare. Leaving soil bare is so bad for soil health. It contributes to erosion, loss of nutrients, and if nothing is growing there, then there's nothing to feed the soil beneficials like the mycorrhizal network that brings nutrients to your plant's root systems. Some good winter cover crop choices include winter rye, crimson clover, and winter wheat. If anyone has grown wheat in Florida, please let me know if it grew well for you and what variety. I bake a lot of our household bread, but I have never grown wheat before, so that's something I'm a little curious about and would appreciate to know how it worked out for you. My next and sixth task is to protect your garden's irrigation system if you're expecting freezing temperatures. This includes turning off the water supply to your irrigation pipes, drip tape, or sprinkler systems, and draining them thoroughly to prevent water from freezing inside. Frozen water can cause pipes or drip lines to burst, which which leads to costly repairs and potential damage to your garden. If you have a more extensive irrigation system, consider using an air compressor to blow out any remaining water from the pipes and sprinkler heads. Use foam pipe insulation or insulating wraps to protect any above ground irrigation lines or exposed valves from freezing temperatures. Install faucet covers or wrap outdoor spigots with insulating material to prevent damage from the cold. By taking these precautions, you'll ensure your irrigation system is protected and ready to go when the warmer weather returns in spring. It's a simple task that can save you from a major headache and potential garden disruption later on. My 7th task for the month of November is to support bird populations as they migrate south by providing food and shelter. As temperatures drop and natural food sources become scarce, attracting birds to your garden helps them on their journey while benefiting your plants. You can attract birds by setting up bird feeders stocked with seeds, suet, and fruit, and by planting native shrubs and trees that produce berries. A great option is a shrub called beautyberry, which produces brightly colored berries during the fall and winter that are very attractive to birds. Another great idea is to create safe shelter by installing bird houses or leaving piles of branches or leaf litter, which the birds can use to build their nest and stay warm. Not only does this help migrating birds, but it also benefits your garden. Birds are a natural pest control, feeding on insects like aphids, caterpillars, and beetles. Now that we're going into fall and winter, you might have lots of fruit trees or plants that go dormant. So my 8th tip is to prune and clean them up. Pruning during dormancy helps shape the tree and removes any damaged or diseased branches, promoting healthier growth when spring arrives. Just make sure to remove crossing branches and open up the center to improve air circulation, which can also help prevent future pest and disease issues. Some examples of fruit trees or plants that go dormant include blueberries, peaches, apples, and grapes. And don't fertilize since they are dormant and not actively growing. Speaking of fruit trees, my 9th tip is to start spraying them with horticultural oil during the fall and winter. This helps to control and suppress pests and diseases, ensuring fewer issues when the growing season returns. In warmer climates like Florida, oil-based treatments can cause leaf burn during the hot months, so it's best to apply them when temperatures cool down in fall and winter. Winter is a good time to clean up any fallen leaves, fruit, or debris around your fruit trees. These can harbor pests and disease spores, so removing them can significantly reduce the risk of infections or infestations in spring. By combining horticultural oil treatments with a thorough garden cleanup, you'll give your fruit trees a much healthier start next year. My last and 10th tip for November is to give plants a deep watering to prepare them for freezing temperatures and prevent dehydration. If the soil is saturated with water, it takes much longer for it to freeze up, which could make the difference between dead trees and plants and those that survive. A lot of the nurseries and farms here in Florida even go as far as to turn on their sprinkler systems to wet the surface of the plants, because that also slows down damage caused by water freezing up. All right, that wraps up my top 10 garden tasks and tips for November. By staying on top of these tasks, you'll keep your garden healthy, productive, and thriving through the cooler months. I recommend checking out this next video where I cover 30 different types of veggies and crops you should be planting right now in November. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gardening.